All right. I'm going to call this 8th meeting of the Undergraduate Senate to order. I will begin by calling roll. Senator Hakami.
Here.
Senator Pintar.
Here.
Senator Hawk.
Here.
Senator Hanash.
Here.
Senator Dantzler.
Here.
Senator Burgess.
Here.
Senator Meekum. Senator Chen.
Here.
Senator Adams.
Here.
Senator Polinsky.
Here.
Senator Najafi.
Here.
Senator Koshman.
Here.
Senator Fryer.
Here.
Senator Kenna.
Here.
Senator Martin.
Here.
Senator Morrow. Senator Mejia. Senator Zitzman.
Here.
Senator O'Connor.
Here.
Senator Leaney.
Here.
Senator Nayar. Senator Beaton.
Oh, here by proxy.
Nayar?
Yeah.
Okay. Senator Beaton. Senator Al-Jaber. Senator Howard.
Here.
Senator Legitimacy.
Here.
Senator Agdepa.
Here.
Senator Robbins.
Present.
Okay, quorum is met. Quick things. One, because Chromebooks are weird, they don't allow me to display via Microsoft, so everything's gonna be shifted into Google Docs. Do not worry about the headers and stuff like that. Just worry about the text. So that's number one. Two, if you look, I sent out additional legislation to everyone. How long it takes to get through the server, I don't know, but that's legislation that came through committee that wasn't in the meeting packet. And also, because of the way this is working, this is a different screen from here, so I'm going to be turning my back a lot. If you look at the agenda, we'll move to the adoption of the agenda. The things that have been added since sending out the meeting packet are 2 reports or 3 reports from officers. In addition, I think we get on new business, but with old business, bills 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 are all back for old business. And I think that's everything that's been added so far. So given that, any discussion on the agenda? Senator Pintar.
I just sent it to you, but could you, I motion to add the legislation that was recommended favorably from my committee.
Yes, that's it. Okay.
Thank you.
Which is, which one? That was resolution what?
Resolution, it's language course resolution.
11. Okay. Was it amended in committee?
It was, yeah, it was, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's amended. If not, we can recommend it. I mean, well, amended in as well.
But you did amend it in committee?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's me. Yeah. We did absolutely. Yeah, we did. Okay.
I will. Whoa.
Thank you, President.
Okay, I will send that out when we're doing reports. I'll send that additional legislation out. Senator Kami.
I would like to amend the agenda by removing a bill to push for the improvement of on-campus religious accommodations because the meeting with HRL fell through, or it was made a week later. There's no point of having it right now.
17, Bill 17?
Yes.
Okay, additional discussion on the agenda. Seeing none, will be adopted without objection. Okay, moving to the adoption of the minutes. Any discussion on the minutes while I bring this up? Seeing no discussion, they will be adopted without objection. Okay. Moving to appear to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on. To reports from officers. First to President Machovic.
Okay, so since the last time I reported to Senate, I've kind of gone over, reviewed some of the things that Taylor had outlined as her goals for the semester. I'm talking with Marianne and with Yami about things that we can kind of like realistically accomplish with the like less than 30 days I have. And so we're going to end up focusing our energy on the grand opening of home and making sure that home has the proper like signage that's like similar to the AUSG executive office, where we have things that say, in this office, we support immigrants, we respect Muslims, we are welcoming, we're open, things like that along those lines. Just reiterating that home is a space where people can collect and feel like they can just be, as Shauna Burke said last night. But yeah, and then I had other ideas on like permanent space, but that's something else that I've been thinking about. But just ignore me. Continue.
Any questions for the president? All right, seeing none, thank you. Moving on to Secretary Schneider's report.
Hi everyone. Founders ticketing starts tomorrow. And it's going to go all week. Check your email tonight for a reminder and a link to the Eventbrite. Demi's been and Solomon and their entire team has been working really hard. If you have any questions, you're probably being a part of AUSG, you're probably going to get messages and emails from friends asking for ticket stuff. Refer all questions to founders@ausg.org. We're not, the tickets available to students are going to be in Eventbrite. Some organizations are going to conduct raffles that are partnered with us. But other than that, we're not able to give tickets because they're friends of AUSG. But just be aware that being part of AUSG, you're probably going to get those emails. In regard, I just want to talk briefly about Bill 1718-016, a bill to ensure open club access to all individuals interested in participating. I know we'll talk about this later well, I guess we're not going to talk about it today during first reading, but I'll definitely be coming to committee and I'll be back here next week to talk about it. As somebody who served as a sophomore AUSG executive, I think that it's a very short-sighted decision to kind of try and reduce the number of, or eliminate actually, the number of credits required to serve as an AUSG executive. I think that we should have a conversation about it as to why I feel that way, and why others feel that way as well. I was appointed to the position, obviously, in late September of my sophomore year. And I was very overwhelmed throughout the year. And I didn't have the experience necessary. I thought I was going to be prepared. I really did. That's why I applied twice and eventually got it and took it on. But it was very detrimental to my overall AU experience in my sophomore year. So I will talk to anybody who wants to talk about this bill and express specifically why I think it's not a great idea, from personal experience. But other than that, looks like it's going to be a good meeting, and I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions about it. I definitely want to talk to as many senators as possible about it.
Questions for the secretary? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports from Case Director Mascaro.
Thank you. I think I shared with you a slide deck, Trevor.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I was going to give you a little nod when we should change slides.
If I can find the presenter.
It's on the right.
It's on the right, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Awesome. So I alluded to this, I think 2 weeks ago, but I just wanted to go through briefly, try to do it 5 to 10 minutes, keep it concise, brief. The report that we released to the administration on the Academic Integrity Code. We do this every time we release a report or a memo because the Senate is the oversight body of student government, and I and all of us in CASE respect that role. We want to make sure that we give you the information as we have it, show you what we've done, what we're recommending, and then also give you some next steps about what we hope to do with this memo so that all of you can hold us accountable to the progress that we hope to make with the rest of the president's cabinet and student government for the remainder of the semester. So we did a little memo that was turned over to some administrators working on the Academic Integrity Code that primarily focused around a survey, surveying student input from individuals that we took on as clients involved in Academic Integrity Code cases. And so the objectives of the memo and the survey within it were threefold. We wanted to collect and solicit student input, and then we wanted to utilize that input to make informed recommendations about the code moving forward, and then provide those recommendations to the university in a way that would be helpful to them, both so that they can use it to inform their decisions and that we might be able to assist them in that process. So the survey is the first of its kind, I guess, within CASE. We've done a lot of memos and reports in the past of which we've come and presented to the Senate, but this is the first time that we've ever involved direct student input. We had 23 students who participated, which is a little more than half of the students we had last semester as clients involved in Academic Integrity Code cases. So all of these students who participated were clients of ours in the fall 2017 semester. Every college, excluding COGOD, was represented. And then to keep in line with all FERPA requirements and our policy on non-disclosure, all identifiable factors for students were eliminated from the interviews and then into the report. So we divided up insights in 2 ways, with the code, the Academic Integrity Code itself, and then the process of how our case is handled and adjudicated. And so we drew these insights both from the direct interviews that we did with students and from all the notes that we took on all, I think it was 43 cases that we had for the Academic Integrity Code in the fall. Every advocate is required to do an outtake report, which sort of lists all the notes and important characteristics of the case. So we use that in addition to the 23 students who were interviewed to form our insights. So when it comes to the code, we're talking about the Academic Integrity Code as a document, just as we would with the Conduct Code. So the first and I think most important thing is that most students have not read the Academic Integrity Code and they can't locate it online or a physical copy. And so when I say most, we try to keep the language objective and specific, but if I'm being honest in a more like just like friend-to-friend scenario, most means like vast majority, like the enormous majority of people have never read the Academic Integrity Code. I would, myself included, before I took this job, so that's not bizarre, I would say. And most can't locate it, which I think is more concerning because they can't find it. When they are given it in email sent to them by Academic Integrity Code administrators, they still don't even click on the link. And so while I'm always a champion and supporter of students, I would say that's a little bit on us as well. We need to work with students to make sure that when given the opportunity to access that information, they take advantage of it. And then lastly, students believe that they have little to no rights afforded to them under the Academic Integrity Code. There are rights given to students in the code, but because they're not listed as such in the document, the perception of the vast majority of students that we work with is that they feel like very exposed and underprotected, given that they believe that they have no rights in the code. So then the second part was the insights in the process. So students report having the best experience when involved in an Academic Integrity Code alleged violation when going through the College of Arts and Sciences. Each college handles them differently. So they do it through the same process. The code is the same for everyone, but all 5 colleges handle their own Integrity Code violations through their own college.
Time has elapsed. Senator Zitzman,
I move to the director as much time as he may consume.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a second. All those in favor of giving Director Mascaro as much time as he needs, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay.
I love it. That's my favorite part. Okay. So So yeah, so just I think it's a nice tidbit for all of you to know. In the unfortunate event that you're ever accused of doing something like this, it doesn't go through conduct. It's not one university office. Whichever class you're accused of violating the code in, you'll go to that college to have it adjudicated. So students report having the best process in CAS. I think that's reflective of the way it works there. There have a lot of really great administrators who run the College of Arts and Sciences. And also that's the most likely place you're going to go if you're accused of a violation, just because there's so many classes that students run into that are involved in CAS, because like college writing, all the math classes, all the sciences, they all run through CAS. A majority of students are confused as to the difference between the initial meeting and a hearing. I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want to take too much time, but if you guys are interested, I can talk about it more one-on-one later. But there's an initial meeting and then a follow-up hearing if you want. There are two very different things, and really no one understands the difference. Students generally view AIC hearings as a negative experience. So after that initial meeting, if you go to a hearing, almost every student we spoke to reported feeling, even if it's not just being found like guilty that makes them upset, they just had an unsatisfactory experience given the way they were involved. Many students believe bringing an advocate to their meeting will be perceived negatively. So we found this was really interesting, and I wanted to let you guys know. A lot of students, which is not true with conduct, but with AIC, feel that bringing an advocate is like lawyering up, and that it looks bad if you bring someone with you. The administrators that I work with are very nice about involving case advocates, so I don't think it's on their part. I just think there's a misconception among students that it could be a negative thing. And then lastly, students are far more likely to reach out to us when the administrator in the college running the AIC recommends that they do so. So maybe this is obvious, but I think it's an important note that like a partnership and building a relationship with these schools is a good thing, because we're way more likely to be able to help a student when that barrier of the negative perception is eliminated by someone in CAS, for example, being like, oh, like, have you heard of CASE? Like, you might want to go check them out, work with an advocate. So next steps. Like I said 2 weeks ago, we synthesized all this into a memo and gave it to the administrator in the College of Arts and Sciences, who requested that the memo be done. She is awesome to work with. Her name is Professor Thomas, and she received it well. And now we have the opportunity, as I said, to work with her on a task force that's being put together on both looking at the code itself and making any tweaks that might be appropriate, and also how students are involved in the process and how to make it easier and more accessible for students to understand their rights, the process, and how to have the best outcome possible given the situation. And so we've given a list of individuals who want to be involved in that task force. A lot of the senators reached out to me, so thank you for that. Those names have been delivered. And what we're going to do now is, as we involve ourselves in that task force, I'll make sure to come back here, or someone from CASE will be here, to discuss where we are moving forward with our recommendations in the memo. And speaking of those recommendations, I think you can kind of get the gist a little bit of what I've been saying with the insights in terms of what I think should change. But if anyone's interested in reading the actual language of the memo, just send me an email and I'll be happy to send it to you directly. All right, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now. I love questions. And also you can contact me by any of those means of communication.
Questions for the director, Senator Kenna.
Regarding problems with the code itself.
Yes.
Did the memo include any language about unclarity about what the consequences for a violation would be?
Yes, and so our memo didn't, only because the academic integrity, the administrators that run it recently fixed it, and so they addressed it a little more specifically to make it more clear. But it would have been on there because I would say at the end of the spring semester it was still an issue.
Senator Zitzman.
Do you think that the administration might be hesitant to take your findings as representative of the student body, given that there were only 23 respondents and they were all case clients?
That's a great question. I think the reason we chose that sample survey was because when we spoke to them initially, we asked, would you like something that is like more all-encompassing of the like year and a half, or would you like direct testimony? And they preferred a smaller sample size if they got direct insight and quotes from students. And so we chose the 23 based on their recommendation, which is why I'm pretty comfortable that they're going to treat it seriously. And so far, just the reception has been them treating it very seriously. So I think we made the right call.
Senator Robbins.
Thank you for being here, Director.
Absolutely.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
One, I don't know if you're allowed to, but can you speak to, in the sample size that you got, the severity of the claims that were brought forth against the students? And then also, if you could speak just briefly on maybe what the College of Arts and Sciences does differently that allows it to be a more beneficial experience for those involved.
Yeah. So I would say the majority of cases we get, and as I said, I think we had 43 or 45 I think it was 45 in total last semester. And including of the 23 that spoke to us directly, the vast majority of cases were either plagiarism or inappropriate collaboration. So like working together on a paper, working together on a test. In terms of severity, the way that the code works, the university through the code says that the almost always de facto punishment is a failure for the class. So the university believes that because they have to take it so seriously and they treat academic integrity so seriously, it's an automatic failure. It's not always an automatic failure, but they do say that in the code. So I would say that any instance is very severe according to the school. Your second question about
just what the College of Arts and Sciences
does
differently to make it a more beneficial experience.
Great question. I think that they are the most understanding of student fear and concern through the process. So I think they're really good at understanding that if you're accused rightfully or wrongfully of an academic integrity code violation, you're freaking out, very nervous, very concerned, and they get that. They're very good at sort of acknowledging that, being kind and nice based on that. And I guess I'm biased, but they're always the people that recommend students go to case. So I think those things are probably the most indicative. Yeah.
Other questions, Senator Kenna.
When you and I discussed this one-on-one, you said that each of the 5 schools have a different education process.
Yes.
And so are you working primarily with CAS, or is this something that you're working on with the whole university?
So it's with the whole university. It's incidental that we're working more directly with CAS only because the individual who's going to be responsible for this task force, Professor Thomas, is the administrator for the CAS system, but it's a university-wide task force.
Additional questions? Seeing none. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So just some quick updates. Again, in terms of for the Senate specifically, senators, be sure to 1, sign in for office hours, because that's how I know if you get those points or not. 2, be sure to let your committee chairs know if you're not going to be there. At least let them know so that you can be excused rather than just not letting them know and then have that marked against you. Those are 2 Senate updates. 3, the legislative agenda I think was received pretty well by people. I've heard a lot of great comments from it. Keep pushing the things that you guys helped create, of the goals that are in there, but also keep working on additional things and show that the Senate is still working for the student body and we're still trying to do the best possible work that is in our within our scope. As another update, there's a couple senators asking this week about the process of secret ballot in case for the future. After doing some research and based on precedents, if you request to vote on anything by secret ballot, it's automatically entertained without debate or anything because it's a right for senators to have, just as an update for everyone to know. And I think that's it. I'm still working on meeting with Dr. Aw, hopefully within the week or 2, to sort of establish the things that the Senate is doing, how she could help with some of the legislation that you guys have passed already. And I'm also working on establishing the connection with the faculty senate because I know there's a lot of curriculum-based things that senators are working on. So getting that forward, I think that would play nicely into what the one piece of legislation with the joint committee is doing. And I think that's all the updates I have at this moment. Everyone knows that the special election has started, so that process is going. And yeah, that's all I have. Any questions for me at the moment? Yeah, Senator Martin.
Is the election commissioner going to give us kind of an update on the special election?
I can ask. I don't know how what kind of updates you're looking for specifically. What I'll probably do is just confirm the time in which voting occurs and campaigning starts and things like that if you want him, and I'll let him know to come make a quick report either next week or the following week. Other questions? Cool. All right. Moving on to reports from committees. First, the Standing Committee on Campus and Student Life. Yeah, Senator Polinsky.
So we have two bills on the floor today. One was the construction bill that we had talked about last week, and the other one is Sophia's bill about Plan B and getting it on campus, making it more accessible. And we're hoping that both bills pass because we think both of them are pretty common sense.
Questions for the chair? All right. Moving on to reports from Standing Committee on Accessibility, Transparency, and Accountability. Yes.
I'll speak for Ben. We basically just passed on Bobby's bill to full Senate and approved it unanimously and made a few changes that we recommended to the Senate.
Great. Any questions for the Vice Chair? All right, moving on to Special Committee on Finance. Senator Hawk.
Yeah, so we met earlier today to consider the Senator Kami's tuition bill, and we made a pretty major amendment, which you'll see when we get to the bill. But we basically replaced the mandates in the bill with mandating the Finance Committee to publish a report on different college affordability policies. And yeah, you'll see that when we come to it.
Questions for the chair? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the Special Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Senator Pintar.
So we were given legislation to consider 2 weeks ago, and we did not make quorum that time, so we could not officially recommend it. But we have been amending it in the past couple of weeks, and we met earlier this morning, and we did reach full quorum, and we went over the amendments that we had gone over in the past couple of weeks, and we recommended to the full Senate. And we also have set up our weekly meeting time for Sundays, 10 a.m.
All right. Any questions for the chair? All right, seeing none, we'll move to the Committee on Rules and Privileges. As you see in the agenda, there's 2 confirmations today. Both were favorably recommended. Additionally, the bill to establish the executive director position for diversity, equity, and inclusion was favorably recommended after being amended to add some additional language regarding their position on the President's Council of Diversity and Inclusion. And the committee, again, favorably recommended it. So you all have those edits. And that's it for CRP. Questions for CRP? Okay. Moving on to advising from student activities. There is no advising this week, so we'll move on to new business. First, the confirmation of Brian Fu to be the AUSG Web and Tech Director. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I know most of you, but I'm Brian Fu. Currently, I am the Web and Communications Specialist in Secretary Schneider's cabinet. I've been nominated to be Web and Tech Director. So what does that mean? Currently, I manage the AUSG website. This position would add on my responsibilities the management of the student job board. Some proof of concept for what I've done so far in my current position. The legislation tracker was my concept, and I produced that with Secretary Schneider. I did a whole revamp of the website and updating it, the various departments and everything. The for student section was cut down in some areas and added in some areas. One thing to note that I'm really proud of is that now there is an external link there in the for student section for student loan tools of how students can best utilize and repay their federal loans back. So I think I've proven myself able to run the website, and I'm hoping to do that and probably bring some more different ideas to the website in the next couple of weeks, and to hopefully well maintain the jobs board as well. I'll be meeting with Secretary Schneider soon to go over the mechanics of the jobs board. So I'm happy to take any questions you have right now.
Questions for the nominee, Senator Mejia.
What is your largest goal for the website?
So my largest goal was probably achieved while I was Web and Communication Specialist, which was a full update of staff, directors, JBoard decisions, JBoard members, and all of that. Adding the tools and updating the for student section was really important because that's where students can go and find resources for for undocumented students, for students with their loan problems, students looking for case. Can go there. That was probably my biggest goal. My next one, I'm probably interested in putting the cabinets in the because I think some of us may have trouble knowing who are in the cabinets of the executives, putting them and their contact information there. That would probably be my next goal. And I'd probably work with Secretary Sherman on that as well.
Senator Hakami.
There is an amazing website you sent me about student loans
Mhm.
and how to navigate all of that
Mhm.
beautifulness. When is that going to be up?
That's already up.
Awesome.
Yeah, so-
And can that be, do you think you can share that to the actual AUSG Facebook page?
I can get that done. Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
Questions for the nominee? Seeing none, if you wouldn't mind leaving the room. All right, Senator Fryer.
I think he's fantastic. I think he seems very dedicated, very knowledgeable with what he's doing. I think that he seems to work in a very timely manner. And I think that's something that can definitely be utilized within any AUSG cabinet.
Director Mascaro.
Thank you. I guess that maybe as a proxy. Yeah, I would just say that I work, well, not as a proxy, as director, I work with Brian all the time. He's in my staff, does communications work. I think he's supremely qualified. And to keep things moving, I would motion to vote by unanimous consent.
Okay, there's a motion to vote by unanimous consent. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any objection to confirming Brian Fu as AUSG Web and Tech Director? Seeing none, he is confirmed. All right, moving to our next business item, the confirmation of Noah Wills to be Chair of the Judicial Board. The floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Noah. For those of you who I haven't met yet, I was studying abroad last semester. I was the former Speaker of the 12th Senate, two before Trevor. So you need a J-Board chair because we're in the middle of a special election cycle and the regular election is also coming up. So I was JSUP chair before and I was elections commissioner before, so I have a pretty good handle on how elections are run and how much J-Board really only operates during election cycle. I've only held these impartial roles in the AUSG, so I plan to continue that impartiality. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
All right, questions for the nominee. Senator O'Connor.
So what do you view the role of the J-Board chair as, and how active will you be in that role?
How do I view the J-Board chair?
Yeah, do you see it as there are two different sort of views. As a parliamentarian, it's sort of you're sort of like an activist more role you could take, or much more passive.
Okay.
Which one?
Definitely not going to be an activist. I think that is not the role of the J-Board chair. I think that's when you get into some problems. Actually, that you brought up a good point though. If I was confirmed as J-Board chair starting immediately, I would be acting parliamentarian of the Senate. So you finally have a parliamentarian. And I would be here at every Senate meeting. But for the J-Board chair, it's mostly just waiting for inquiries to come in, deciding them not on a one-person unanimous decision, just interpreting the bylaws and the governing documents, which I have worked with for the past 2 or 3 years.
Other questions for the nominee to be Chair of the Judicial Board? This is a very important confirmation. Senator Kenna?
Could you list for us the order of precedence?
Absolutely.
I have
Say the second part again?
Can you elaborate on your experience with the bylaws?
Okay. Well, the order of governing documents are the Constitution, bylaws, rules of debate and quorum, ethical and judicial standards, past parliamentary rulings, and standard code of parliamentary procedure. My work with the bylaws under your leadership in the 12th Senate, we were able to update them. And with the other governing documents as well. I mean, I know last week you guys finally updated the elections policy book that hadn't been updated since the last time I updated it in 2015. So it's really good to have that updated. So I've always been in contact with the governing documents.
Other questions? Senator Robbins.
So the speaker brought up you brought up a good point about you being the parliamentarian. Can you speak to your experience with that and how you would see that being going? Because I think we really need one. I think we all agree. So.
Yeah, so we've had a difficulty of having and maintaining parliamentarians in the Senate for the past couple of years. But as speaker, I definitely know the parliamentary procedure. I think Trevor and I have both read the standard code book, which most people haven't read, which is just literally how to run, he hasn't read it, how to run meetings. So that's half of it, and then the other half is interpreting governing documents, which, like I said, I've worked with for the past couple of years. So.
Senator Polinsky.
I was just wondering, during CRP, you mentioned something about coming to Senate meetings if there isn't a parliamentarian, since you'll be acting parliamentarian. Can you just reiterate that for the whole Senate, because I think it was important?
Yeah, I'll be here at every Senate meeting.
Commitment.
Other questions for the nominee? Seeing none?
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind leaving the room.
I have a quick question, actually.
All right, one more question.
Sorry, no.
Yeah.
Because it's a life appointment, do you plan on holding it to graduate?
Yes, I plan on holding it for the next 2.5 months.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Discussion debate on the nominee. Senator O'Connor.
So Noah was the one who encouraged me to apply for parliamentarian, and once I was confirmed, he sat down with me and went throughout all the governing documents. Was incredibly helpful, incredibly knowledgeable about that whole process. And I just find not only is he incredibly qualified and knows what he's doing, but he's also really easy to work with, which is something that is incredibly important to have this organization. So I wholeheartedly support it.
Other points of discussion. Senator Zitzman.
This is a question for you. Is the rest of the J board full right now? The associates?
Upon confirmation, it would be full. Yeah.
Okay.
Senator Mejia.
That's another question for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Senator O'Connor.
Is this a paid position?
No. Senator Mejia.
Is there anyone else who's applied for either parliamentarian or head of J board?
The parliamentarian role is not under my purview, it's under the president's purview. So I don't know the applications for that position. I know there were a few, that's all I know. They were in the process of being interviewed and stuff. In terms of the J board, we had not officially sent out an application for J board chair because of the concerns with the special election and student activities wanting someone. So Christine and I were talking about how, along with student activities, we needed someone in the J board role to continue with the special elections. And given Noah's roles in student government in the past, we felt that it would be a good nominee for the position. Yes.
And so he's going to be acting parliamentarian. If someone else goes through the process and gets recommended, would they then supersede him, or is he just through the end of the? Yeah.
So Taylor told me that there were, I believe, 2 applicants, and they still have to get that. Yes, and that will be on my radar. So, and then it answered yes. There are applicants. I will go through them, hopefully, before I have to go back to my comptroller position, but we'll see.
Other points of debate. Senator Kenna.
I think that Noah Wills is extremely qualified and that the Senate should confirm him to be J board chair. His experience as elections policy, with election policy and as being the speaker, well prepares him for an impartial role as the J board chair.
Senator Pintar.
I move to appoint Noah Wills by unanimous.
Second.
Okay, there's a second. Is there any objection to confirming Noah Wills to be judicial board chair? Seeing none, he is confirmed. Let's do the swearing in.
Do you want him? Wait.
What?
Never mind. You can tell. 2 days in a row, so.
Good.
All the kids.
All right, please raise your right hand and repeat after me.
Are you gonna get one too, Carson?
I state your name, do solemnly swear
I, Brian Fu, do solemnly swear
that I will diligently and faithfully
that I will diligently and faithfully
execute the duties and responsibilities
execute the duties and responsibilities
of the office of, state your office,
of the office of Web Director,
that I will abide by the governing documents
that I will abide by the governing documents
of the student government,
of the student government,
and that I will work to my fullest abilities
that I will work my fullest abilities
to promote the interests and welfare
to promote the interest and welfare
of the students of American University.
of the students of American University.
Congratulations. Good, now we have a parliamentarian to check me.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to our next agenda item, to Bill 1718-015, a bill to foster school spirit and Senate activities. Here, yep, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Would the sponsor like to speak on the bill?
Sure. So this bill, me and Leela kind of thought that our school doesn't have a lot of school spirit naturally. Not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing, it's just a thing, I guess. And with the senator's requirement to have to attend at least some club council sponsored event or meeting a month, we thought that it'd be a good idea to also tack on an athletic event like a game, match, or mere practice. And I think it brings into the fold a population that AUSG kind of doesn't really focus on, which I think would be a good thing because you never have too many voices. I went to the basketball game yesterday against Lehigh, and there were like a decent amount of people, but I think, there could always be room for a few more senators or directors or e-board positions, whatever. So I thought this would be a good way to start that kind of conversation.
All right, questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, this bill will be referred to CRP without objection. All right. Moving on to our next agenda item. Bill 1718-016, a bill to ensure open club access to all individuals interested in participating. Would the sponsor or one of the sponsors like to speak on the bill?
Sure, actually. So what currently is in place right now is student activity says that there is no credit requirement for clubs or individuals to join e-board or executive positions in clubs. And I really hope that this does not become controversial because I would like to make some clarifications before we actually discuss the intricacies of everything. But nobody is eliminating the credit requirement. The credit requirement still exists. We're just updating the AUSG bylaws to be representative of what student activities declares. And that's about it, really. We're just saying that if you are paying $63,000 a year to attend the same university as your peers, if you live on campus and you're paying for housing, and you're paying for your meal plan, and you're going to your classes, and you are capable of running for a position in student government senate or any other random staff position, if you are well involved in the student life, and if you have some experience in some leadership positions, then why the hell not? Why not? It is a club after all. We shouldn't be making it some sort of closed off organization or impossible. You know what? The main point of this is just to say that if you're capable of doing Senate, then you're capable of running. And it's not to say that you can win, but it's that you have a chance. And I don't think that's maybe too controversial in my opinion. I think everyone has a chance to try. It's a lot of money to go here, and I think that if you want to, you can try out for a club because you're paying for it. That's about it. Would anyone else like to comment?
Any other sponsors? No? All right.
I can comment as a sponsor.
Well,
a co-sponsor.
Okay.
I guess I would just say, outside of whatever I feel personally, that who's qualified or who's not, to me, after doing research, right, student activities has already eliminated their formal credit requirement, I believe. So I don't know, like if there has to be a conversation about who is qualified and who's not, that conversation has already been had by student activities. And so if there needs to be a conversation with this board, with this organization about that, then it should be done. But right now, I see this as just being in accordance with what student activities has already implemented. And it's not at all about us deciding who's qualified and who's not, because that conversation has already been had. So I view this as just being in accordance with what has already been decided by student activities. If we want to have a conversation and then talk about it with student activities, I think that's important, but it's already been done. So that's how I do this.
Okay. Moving to.
Can I just say something real quick?
Yeah.
Can everyone please put away your phones and close your laptops? It's really just being polite. If it makes it better for you, just don't be on Facebook. Just be respectful, I guess, for the meeting.
Okay, moving to a period of questioning for the sponsors. Any questions for the sponsors? Senator Meekum.
I can't really see this, but what is the text that goes down the side of the? It just says name.
Okay, so with Google Docs, it's all over the place. That's no different than what the wording is you have.
Okay.
It's just like the way it's formatted. Yeah, the way Google Docs does it. All the wording's still there.
Okay.
Senator Hawk.
Yeah, so I think I'm a little confused. So did student activities get rid of these credit requirements for every organization or every organization except AUSG?
Every organization.
Except AUSG.
Yeah, okay.
Can I have another question?
Hold on, we'll go to Senator Zisman.
Thanks. This is for Senator McConnell. Just to clarify, you said in your first statement that this doesn't remove the credit requirement, but just basically that is what it does, right? Like if you want to run for an executive position, you don't have to have 45 credits anymore if this passes?
Well, here's the thing. You have to have some sort of documented evidence stating previously held leadership experience at a American university organization. So nobody's touching the credit requirement, but if you have below the credit requirement and you're still well involved and you have some sort of governing document or some sort of listed evidence that you have been well involved and you are well equipped to take on this kind of step, then I don't see what necessarily the problem is. And that is what the amendment is basically saying. It should be up to the election process, like we do in the United States of America, and what most other universities do, like the UC system, where it is decided on election day or throughout the process of the campaign who is the most qualified candidate. It's about making a free, open, and fair election and giving everyone an equal shot to try.
Senator Najafi.
I think if we're going to equate it to the United States of America, we do have requirements for who can and who can't run. And you have to be 25 to run for the House of Representatives and see 30. So my question is, does this equate necessarily? I see this issue bringing out term limits. If you're going to be able to run as a freshman, you might want to run the next year and the year after that. So how are you going to deal with that? And then two, what do you just see the direct result of this bill?
Sure.
What do you see playing out afterwards?
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry, how old are you?
I'm 19.
You're 19. I'm 18 actually. So what month were you born in?
Okay, how does this work?
No, sorry. Were you born 1998? Just out of curiosity.
Yes.
So I'm only a few years younger than you, and most freshmen are probably a few years younger than you, right? 1 year, maybe a few months. It really just depends. Some freshmen are also born 1998. So what I'm trying to say here is that the United States of America's age limit, and then the difference in age between you and I, and you and maybe any other sophomore or freshman, is pretty minimal. So to equate that kind of requirement on a more federal level in regards to age just doesn't apply, right?
You brought up.
No, right, but also you just brought it up first as well. So in regards to the term limits, that would be another bylaw amendment that we would make. That is not necessarily germane to what's happening right now. And it's a fair one too. But in my opinion, I think that this credit requirement is just not working out too well because you have sophomores who are also not able to run, right? You have the 44 creditors that I like to kind of phrase the saying as. So it doesn't actually apply to age. It's not really working out. You have individuals who take gap years. You have individuals who take less credits because maybe they're suffering or they're struggling academically. You have transfer students. You have kids who want to study abroad. You have kids who drop a class, whatever it might be. I think personally, a credit requirement for a club and to hold student government at a higher position than any other organization on campus is a little bit unfair. And then to say that because I was born like 6 months or 5 months later than you or anyone else, or if any other freshman was born, a few months before somebody else, they're just less qualified. It just doesn't make any sense.
Time for questioning has elapsed.
Can we extend it, please?
What? Okay. Senator Zitzman.
I move to extend questioning by 3 minutes.
Okay, there's a motion to extend questioning by 3 minutes. Is there a second? I hear a second. All those in favor of extending by 3 minutes, say yay.
Yeah.
All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, in the opinion of the chair, the nays have it, so that doesn't pass. Senator Pryor.
Motion to move into a period of debate.
You would have to waive first reading to go right into second reading. So without objection, this is going to be referred to CRP for first reading. Where's the agenda? Moving on to the next agenda item, Bill 17-18-018, a bill to amend the bylaws regarding states of exception. Pull it up. Would the sponsor like to speak on the bill?
Yes. So this bill sounds really exciting, amending bylaws about states of exception, but it's really not. This section here of the bylaws that's up on the board says at the first part, when the Senate is considering a state of exception, there needs to be a quorum there. That's one of the first lines. Then later in the bylaws as they currently stand, it specifies that 15 senators need to be at that meeting. Sometimes 15 senators does constitute quorum. Actually, it always does, unless there's 30 senators. The Senate's completely full, then you would need 16. But sometimes there's fewer, so it would be quorum plus extra to get 15. And sometimes, I don't know if this has ever happened, it probably happened at the end of the 12th Senate, but there are just fewer than 15 senators, period. So this changes that number 15 again to the word quorum, and that's it.
Questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, without objection, this will also be referred to CRP. Moving on to our next agenda item, Resolution 17-18-013, a resolution to hang a Pan-African flag on campus for Black History Month. The sponsor like to speak on the bill or resolution?
I want to appreciate Senator Hakami and Senator Johnson for co-sponsoring it, and Senator Hakami for thinking of the idea to work with the Senate and incorporating me into it. I think this is just, it's a very simple resolution. I think it's just the first step into basically celebrating the Black culture and Black history here at AU, especially since we'll be having our Founders Day at the Smithsonian. It will just be a simple hanging the flag on the flagpoles. We have, I think, 2 or 3 flagpoles on campus. And then this will also, if this was to pass and this was to be implemented, it will also be a good forward step for Pride Month or other Heritage Month that are listed in there. And then we can even have another resolution to talk about them as well.
Questions for the sponsor? Senator Robbins?
Just, I think this is a great idea, and I should ask a logistical question. Sorry to have to ask this, but where's the flag coming from, and where are the funds come? Like, is somebody just instead of buying the flag, you know what I mean? Where does the flag come from?
So I didn't really think about that idea, but I think the flag would basically just come from any type of I would say the vendor that AU uses for the flags here, and I think that would probably be a discussion with university officials, or even with I know the bookstore I know sells AU flags, so just asking them what their vendor is and seeing if their vendor provides a Pan-African flag. As for funds, I think that would probably have to be discussed with the finance committee in terms of if it will come out of the budget of Senate or some other type of account that's in student government.
Other questions, Senator Adams?
So I love the idea of this, and supporting diversity. There's one section that talks about other flags for other people. So how would that be implemented? Because I think this is great, and not only have it for one group, but in every important month that recognizes a group of people, we should do that.
So I think you're right, that's actually a really good idea. I think the first thing that we want to do is basically set up a layout, set up a meeting with Fonta'a, and then discuss the feasibility of creating another flagpole, where to establish it, and then where to find flags themselves. I looked up the cost. It's around $25 per flag if we want to get it from literally Amazon, which probably we won't. But that's only to say that they're not that expensive, on any website. And I think it would be in charge, this is something that's we're gonna probably build off of this one resolution, but it would be the job of the executive position of the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to work with the Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to find different types of flags, and then responsible for researching different months in order to hang up the flags that represent and stand in solidarity with the minority individuals represented in those months.
Other questions for the sponsors? Senator Kenna.
Just for clarification, what we mean about this part is highly encouraged to hang a flag in solidarity with the celebrated minority individuals. So that means in June, there would be a rainbow flag, or whenever Women's History Month, if they have a flag, that too. So it's not just this Pan-African. Okay.
And this is just a first step to see how the university will respond to this.
Right.
And then if it is the university would say, okay, we do support this and we will have it, then we can implement. If it's another resolution where we'll list off the different months of the other minority groups, then we'll do something like that. But it's a first step to the university saying, okay, we'll accept this idea, especially since we're hosting founders. It just makes sense to have something like this to encourage minority communities here on campus, especially the African American community, which sometimes don't really get as much respect on campus.
Senator Mejia.
I'm also sorry to be asking a logistical question, but where are we planning on hanging the flag?
Yeah, that's actually a really fair question. So this is logistically, this is an idea that we've scripted for Senate to be aware of. The actual the technicalities are actually going to be hammered out in a meeting I set up with Fonta'a next week. And so that's when we're going to basically decide, do we want to have it in front of the hallway or the walkway next to Cass and Kogod? I think that's the building. Or do we want to have it in the actual main quad of the school by the library? So all those technicalities are going to be coming up in another bill, actually resolution. This is just an idea that we wanted to get by you guys, and then also inform a few other members if they're willing to jump on and help out.
Does someone want to grant Director Payano speaking rights? Senator Burgess?
Second.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
What? Even as a director? Yeah. Okay. All right, cool.
Awesome. Sexy.
See, this is why
I think that this is a great step, and I know that a lot of people are hanging out on logistics, but just to clarify, other universities have done this.
Yeah.
So it's not impossible to do, it's just how willing is the administration to do so. And I feel as the students, if we have student buy-in, we can get it done. There are some months, and I'm gonna be completely honest, that are gonna be hard to do. The Latinx, the Latino Heritage Month, there's 150 flags and we cannot hang them all there. Okay, that's an exaggerated number, but you guys get what I'm saying. And it's just basically there's some other things, but I think that there are months that this would be a great idea, and maybe for the other months, this can encourage more of maybe a fair, maybe just so that AU is more inclusive when these months happen. But I do want to say that it's doable just because it has been done in other universities. So I wouldn't tell you guys to not shut it down. That's all I'm saying. The logistic comes afterwards, and if you guys want more logistical things, we can get back to it and talk to a few people in the administration, and we can come back with all your, I'm taking mental notes of all your questions, and I'll try to find an answer for you guys as soon as possible. Is that a question?
It's okay. Just add a question mark to that end.
Oh, what do you feel about this comment?
All right, questioning has elapsed. We will move into a period of debate. Senator Polinsky.
So I didn't get to ask a question, but I guess I can ask a question now. So just another logistical question, and I know I'm just raising this concern. I think this is a great idea. But what would be I know you said the location is still being discussed, but what would be would we hang another pole, or would it take the place of another flag that's already in place, and just worrying about if we're gonna make anyone angry who likes that flag? I don't know, you know what I mean? So maybe if we add an additional thing. And then one other thing, is you mentioned that you might want to add a bill next week after you just talk to Fanta that makes this more of a concrete idea. I think that's a great idea. So I don't know if that's something you're definitely considering, but I hope that you are considering that, because I think the resolution is kind of the sentiment, but the bill will make it a more concrete thing.
Sponsor, is that a question for one of the sponsors?
Isn't this just debate?
I mean, it is, but it sounded like you were asking a question.
I mean, yeah, sure, it's a question.
Would the sponsors?
Yeah, I can answer the question. It wouldn't take a place of any other flag. It would just be underneath, I think. It's American flag, AU flag, and then I think that's the orders DC, so that it'll be right underneath that.
Okay.
And not only that, but for the people that don't like it, I think that's where we get the multicultural groups to buy in. And that's when us Senate, we should go to these groups and say, hey, is this a good idea? What do you guys think? I'm pretty sure none of them are gonna say no, because they actually feel right underrepresented on this campus. But if that would make you guys feel better, I think it's a great idea, because we would have larger student buy-in anyways.
Well, also, I think, I'm so sorry, Trevor, but also I think if somebody has an issue with the Pan-African flag, that should not be something that we just bow down and go oh, I'm so sorry. That's a problem among that student. We should be calling out, racist individuals and people who are okay with.
There are some people that, I gotta say this as director, there are some people that have conservative views, and just because this is a institution that values knowledge, unfortunately, we can't shut it down. It's just the merit of the fact that we are in a debate, we're higher education, and higher educations have different ideologies, but I get your sentiment. I just have to say that as director of inclusion.
Senator Nyar's proxy.
Yeah, so I think this is a great idea. To be honest, I don't even think future legislation is required. As someone that despises the concept of resolutions as an idea, I think this is the one resolution I've ever thought was purposeful and meaningful, because it's expressing an intent. If someone should do it, it probably should be the Senate. It should be the people elected to represent students. I don't think we need a bill coming up to do the logistics or the specifics. I think that Senator Polinsky raised great questions, and I think that they will be answered in requisite meetings with Dr. that can be reported on by Senator Hockney or Senator Burgess. So I don't want to silence anyone. If there are other comments, please shut me down, but I would move to vote. I don't see any reason why we didn't fail on this. So
okay, there's a motion to close debate unless.
I just want to add one thing.
Please, I'll withdraw.
Okay.
I just want to say it's also a great way to have a collaborative effort with these cultural groups, with different history months and things like that. That's a way to reach out to them with Lasso and be what flag do you recommend? What do you think? And just kind of bridge that gap and make it more of an effort as a student body together. So
and I would not be surprised if I would not be surprised if they would be even willing to say, hey, we're taking out of our money to buy the flags.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, collaboration, people, community, aka family.
Other points of debate or discussion on the resolution?
Okay, I can motion to vote.
Well, seeing no points, we'll move to vote. All those in favor of adopting resolution 17-18-013, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. All right, it's adopted. Moving to the next agenda item, resolution 17-18-014, a resolution to support donating excess food from TDR to Campus Kitchen. Would the sponsor like to speak on
Yes, I'd love to
resolution?
Okay, so basically, Campus Kitchen accepts food waste, and so TDR has a lot of excess food at the end of the day, and I think what's better than just throwing it away is donating it, and it would help local people in the community, and also would benefit AU because AU would get tax deductions, so it's a win-win. I see no reason why we shouldn't, so yeah. Also, AU would have no liability if anything were to happen with the food, so.
All right, questions for the sponsor? Senator O'Connor.
Yeah, so I think this is a really good idea. My only concern is that, I have heard things where like grocery stores have done programs like this to donate like perishables and stuff that, and they've run into issues where like the food goes bad or like potentially people could get sick. So I'm curious like how.
So I actually spoke to someone at Campus Kitchen and asked them what they think about like getting food from AU, and they said like that they'd love to come and speak to us at some point. Obviously, I'd like to talk to the director of dining before that, but basically since we are not liable for anything that happens if the food does go perishable, like if it does anything, God forbid, to happen with the food. AU would not be liable, which is something that's good for the school because that's like one of the main concerns in going into something like this.
Yeah.
Also just generally they have certain procedures and guidelines of how to donate the food and what containers to put them in, how to like keep them for like eggs, things like that. Like, so generally like they said they haven't really run into any issues with this before, so yeah.
Senator Agdepa?
Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify if we would be dealing specifically with the Metro King University itself, or if we would also be dealing with Aramark, because I know that TDR is owned by Aramark and they're the ones which deal with this. And I was just wondering if you would be thinking of applying this past TDR into all the other Aramark buildings here, and how that would also apply to non-Aramark.
So basically, that's why I wanted to pass a resolution for now, because I wanted to have a discussion with the director of the dining. Madison and I were gonna have a discussion with that person and then see how that works, because I do know that Aramark is involved. I don't know the details about that. And basically, since TDR is one of the places that has the most food waste, I think that it would be a great place to start and to open the conversation, see how it goes, and then decide from there on what we'd like to do, if we'd like to broaden it out to other places on campus and how that would look like what that would look like.
Other questions? Senator Mejia.
Do you have any idea of what impact this will have on the workers? If they have to stay late, if they have to do extra work to package all this food, to have it sent, and if this means that they'll have to go through another round of dealing with Aramark?
So basically, when I spoke to the person at Campus Kitchen, she said that Campus Kitchen would be open to coming to AU and picking up the food, especially since it's a big donation and that they really want it, so they would work to come get it. So if they do come get it, then that would save employees from going to actually deliver it, so that wouldn't affect anything. They would have to package it in a specific way, so I'm sure that would maybe affect timing. I don't know how that would work out. I haven't really worked out the exact logistics, which is why it's still a resolution. But yeah.
Other questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we'll move to debate. Any points of discussion or debate on the resolution? Senator Chen.
Yeah, this was actually one of the points on my platform when I ran, and I did some research on Campus Kitchen, and it seems like a really great organization. A lot of universities around the country actually do donate to Campus Kitchen, and from what I read, like Danya was saying, for most bigger universities, the people from Campus Kitchen come and pick it up and package it for you, and then they'll take it back to the local local site nearby. So I think, especially since it's a resolution right now, to discover how open administration would be to creating this partnership, I think there's no reason not to pass that.
Other points of debate or discussion? Senator Mejia.
Motion to amend, or I guess this is more just a question and then maybe a motion.
Okay.
Will, after y'all have conversations with the people y'all have to have conversations with, do you guys report back to the Senate to let us know? Okay, cool stuff.
Okay. Other points of debate or discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor of adopting Resolution 17-18014, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. All right, it is adopted. Moving to our next agenda item, Resolution 17-18015, a resolution to include the suicide hotline number on the back of all AU1 one cards, not one's cards. Would the sponsor like to speak on the resolution?
Sure, why not? So I was talking a lot with Brian, who was just confirmed earlier in the meeting, and we were talking about what ways can we, what steps can we take to really up our game on tackling mental health issues and things of that nature. And we kind of came up with including the suicide hotline number on the back of all AE1 cards. And if you guys even look at your cards, there's ample space all on the back of the card, and they have the Eagle Bucks website, public safety number, and the housing and dining programs number. And then right under that, I just figured include the suicide hotline number. Everyone, we all have our IDs on campus. We have them when we're even off campus. So whenever something whenever an issue happens with one's mental health and they just need help or they need assistance, they always have their ID card most of the time. And I figured it would be a great way to make sure that they have access to the resource, also considering that it's confidential, free, and available 24/7. So yeah. So
questions for the sponsor, Senator Burgess.
I have a quick question. I'm definitely in support of this full-heartedly. Are you looking to implement this for the new incoming freshmen having it on the cards, or are you looking to have it where all students both abroad and here on campus kind of turn in their cards and have a process where they'll they get a new card?
That's a really great question. So I was that's one thing that came up immediately was, so we want this to kind of like you said, when the incoming freshmen come, we would like to already be there. And then myself and Brian would like to work with Housing Residence Life to see if we can come up with some sort of program to get the cards updated, which I think could be good for everyone as well, because if you see, I've had this since freshman year and I have no face anymore. So, so kind of a win-win on two sides. So yes, absolutely.
You can get it replaced for free.
Senator Robbins.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. I just have two questions. Why a resolution, and why, as opposed to a bill where it's maybe more binding? And have you spoken to people who can actually implement this change? And are they willing to just print the additional number on there?
So that's another question. Another great question. So we wanted to do a resolution first to kind of make a suggestion, and then based on the feedback we got today, and then based on conversations that we're planning on having this coming week with Housing Residence Life, we figured that a bill, something more tangible, like a bill, would be better to be later facilitated, probably next week. But right now, we felt as though a resolution kind of introduce and suggest this would be most efficient.
Senator Najafi.
I really think it's a great idea, and there are other very valuable hotlines that I think that you should look into including as well, domestic violence hotline. So would you be open to amending to changing it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, you don't need to do it now, but
No, yeah.
the committee thinking about it. What? Oh, well,
Yeah.
can we amend? Well, that would change the whole.
Are there other questions?
What are your thoughts on that?
So I don't think it would change the whole structure of it. I mean, I think, this one is specifically for mental health. And while of course, violence and domestic violence and things like that do go hand in hand with mental health, I think that maybe when we create the bill, I think, and even that making it all more encompassing, to include domestic violence, a rape counseling center, sexual assault things like that. I think that'd be a lot more strategic to actually include in the whole bill to make it more comprehensive.
Other questions for the sponsor? Senator Hawk.
Yeah, so this kind of going off of what Senator Najafi just brought up, if it gets to the point where we have too many hotlines that we think are important that we can't fit onto one card, how would we prioritize which ones to put on?
That's a great question, and I'd be open to collaboration with that. I also I think we kind of, I feel this suicide hotline I feel is a really big one. Not to say it's the big one, which is why I felt if there were to be one, and again I would have to talk to Housing Residence Life to see what's feasible and what's tangible. I figured if that putting the suicide hotline number would be a big one, I guess, to include. But I think I'll have to talk with them and see what do they think, in terms of which ones to kind of prioritize, for lack of a better word, to kind of include on the back of the card.
Questioning has elapsed. We'll move to a period of debate. Any points of debate or discussion on the resolution? Senator Mejia.
I'm just sort of wondering why it was a suicide hotline that was chosen instead of the a counseling center number or something along those lines? Because on the back of these cards, these are all American University things. Like each one of these, it's not anything off campus, whereas this would be something that is not American University.
Correct. So I was thinking, well, a lot of students have issues with the counseling center. A lot of students, they don't even know how to go about it, number one, which is already an issue. They don't know if it's like how much it's gonna cost. And also with like the counseling center, you only get a select number of like times to meet with a provided like counselor. So I felt that having a free confidential resource, one that you can utilize 24/7, we thought that would be a more strategic way to kind of go about tackling mental health issues.
Other points of debate discussion, Senator Robbins.
I think this is a good idea. I think a greater idea, something you should think about when you go talk to whoever you're going to be speaking to, is perhaps creating some kind of joint directory that students can call that could actually direct you to all of these different like services. So there's been a lot of discussion today about why not include this hotline, why not include this hotline, why not just have a joint directory that is run by AU where you call in, and if you need to be directed back to the suicide hotline or to the domestic violence hotline, you press whatever number and it directs you there. So I would say that might be something you want to entertain. I don't know.
It's a fantastic idea.
Senator Kenna?
This is an awesome resolution, but it includes a specific number, and that number is called the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And so I'd like to amend the resolution to include that official title instead of suicide hotline number.
All right, where would you like it?
Well, in the title, but also in the text.
Okay, so tell me specifically.
Okay, so it says suicide hotline number. If we could strike that and replace it with.
Okay, well, it's not gonna let me do that. I'll write this on a piece of paper. Okay, so you want the title to read what?
A resolution to include the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline on the back of all 81 cards.
So it's you said the National Suicide
Prevention Lifeline.
Okay.
And then in the body text of the resolution, it also makes reference to suicide hotline, and this amendment would be to change that text.
This one right here?
Yes.
Okay.
It's titled.
So to include the National Suicide Lifeline is one word?
Yes.
And there's one right above it too.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Is that the wording you wish to see, including the title, which I can't edit here, but I have it marked down?
Yeah, that's my amendment.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Seeing a second. Any discussion on the blue, which also includes the title? Seeing none.
I just was gonna move.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of adopting what is in blue, including the title, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. Okay. Further discussion on the resolution as a whole. Senator Mejia.
So I full-heartedly support what this is going on, what this bill resolution, the thing wants to do. But I think I have a greater question about the specificity of it, because I've been in college for a while and I've had friends physically assaulted. I have had friends sexually assaulted. I have had friends raped. I've had friends held at gunpoint. I've had friends, and I've been to the hospital with my friends multiple times for suicidal reasons. And I feel like just putting this one hotline, I mean, at the end of the day, it'll open the door to putting all these different hotlines, and it won't fit. And it becomes a thing of prioritization of which one we want to put more. And I feel like there has to be a way that we can make a resolution that encompasses all of it, not just this one particular issue.
I can I respond?
Yeah.
I completely agree. In fact, I even like Jacob's point of including of kind of working to create this one hotline that takes you to like this automated center, and depending on what situation you may be going through, what experiences you may have gone through, there should be a way to kind of navigate like which would be the most appropriate source of help for you. So I think that would be a very good way to kind of address that concern, because that is a very valid point, and I appreciate you bringing it up.
Other points of debate or discussion? Secretary Schneider?
In the fourth whereas clause, that starts with the percentages, after the last comma, or second to last comma, there's that sentence I don't think makes sense.
Which one?
The one, keep going, the 40 to 50% one.
This one.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that was a.
Is it due to financial issues?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Campus to.
On campus due to financial issues, or no, that doesn't make sense either.
Was that just a question?
Can we fix that to make it make sense?
Senator wish to change anything? Any other points of debate or discussion?
Wait, I think it's supposed to be and a lack of resources provided on campus due to financial issues. Instead of A, do and.
Is it AU's financial issues or the students' financial issues?
Students, I'm assuming. No, actually.
So then it's not due to financial issues.
Due to reasons such.
Why don't we just get rid of financial issues? And a lack of resources provided on campus.
Yeah. Is
that an amendment?
Yes, amendment. Okay,
So-
instead of A, and. Yikes.
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 Thanks, Jacob.
Stop. Cease.
All right, so it's, if you can please add A. So.
They got rid of the other changes.
I know. I'll keep them marked.
And A. And then just get rid of, okay, so and a lack of resources provided on campus, but then get rid of 2 financial issues. Because that's just access.
Is that the word that you wish to see?
Swag.
Okay. Is there a second to this amendment?
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor of adopting what's in blue, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay.
Yikes. Can you like zoom in just like the slightest time?
Yeah.
I can't see nothing.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, the title's isn't clear.
Chris, we're gonna fix this next week?
Yes. See how we're doing.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna keep track of these changes on here. Any further discussion on the bill as a whole?
Yeah.
Okay, Senator Kenna, you were next.
Thanks. So obviously I'm in support of this resolution, and I know that you haven't gone to the dining office yet to discuss this, but I'm concerned that because what the hotline that we're recommending and any improvements going forward to recommend other hotlines wouldn't be an official AU resource, that there would be discouragement of putting this number on the back of the one card, because it's in some ways an endorsement of that service. And let's say, for example, that the worst happens and that this service isn't able to prevent a suicide, then there could be legal ramifications for American University having put this on the back of their one card. And so, like, I'm concerned about the university opposition to this resolution on that basis.
Senator Nair's proxy.
Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the counseling center already refers people, like lists that as a service that people could use. So I get, like, you make a really good point, but I think that in this respect we'd be okay because they already cite it as an option for students. Because even they acknowledge that they're not open 24/7.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for
someone can check me on.
Senator Mejia.
This is just a clarification for anyone who's watching the live stream, but the counseling center at this university is free. It just, through this conversation, it's sort of been implied that it's not, and just anyone needs to go to counseling, it is free and available during the hours that it's available.
Secretary Schneider.
To follow up on what Senator Nair's proxy, oh my God. I'm sorry. The university already refers people to various other resources, like on the back of the things that are in the bathrooms. Those are a lot of external resources as well. So I don't know. I would hedge a guess that there's not university opposition to like referring people to outside resources.
You hedge your bet, not a guess.
Well, I'm hedging a guess.
Senator Robbins.
I move that we close debate, vote on unanimous consent to adopt the resolution.
I second.
Okay, there's a second. To close debate first.
And vote by unanimous consent to adopt.
Or it's just one thing.
Yes, for discussion. There's a second.
To close debate.
You have to
Okay, so because he added two parts to it. To close debate.
To close debate, vote by unanimous consent to adopt the resolution. It's all one. Yes, it's all one.
Okay. So there is a second. Is there any objection?
No, any discussion on the motion?
Why?
Because you can debate the motion.
No, not to close debate.
I think you can overrule it.
Y'all.
That is true, but I will say Sturgis said no. While the parliamentarian I will go with the parliamentarian for now. Points for, against, closing debate. All right, seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of closing debate, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay. Is there any objection to adopting the resolution? Okay. All edits have been recorded, so even though that doesn't really say it, they haven't. Okay, moving on. And feel free to overrule me, Noah, if necessary. Any further new business? All right, moving to old business. To Bill 17-18-010, a bill to increase affordability at American University. Would the sponsor like to speak on the bill?
I'm assuming this is the tuition bill?
Yes.
Yes. So I've already kind of kickstarted the entire initiative for a fixed tuition policy, and just I'd like everyone to know there are multiple different kinds of fixed tuitions. It's not that you just cut the tuition hike. I've actually spoken to a Center for American Progress representative. I'm working with their policy team to write up a entire bill, I guess you can say, to present to Fontaine at our next meeting. And so I'm working with their policy team right now. I've met up with the vice president of the Open Textbook Consortium. I was on the phone with that individual for around like 2 hours, and we've been discussing how to navigate that entire realm of affordability in terms of textbooks and everything. And that person will be attending a Senate meeting coming up soon, which is really awesome. Super thankful for that. I've established a this cool like podcast. If anyone is interested, I just want to give like a shout out. Please, actually, I don't know, like I'm gonna be doing a lot of live streams, working with Lucas Anderton to do a little bit more like professional filming in terms of student financial aid advocacy. And then we're going to be working with END representatives. I've like reached out and found the president of the END club, and also I reached out to faculty senate representatives, and there's going to be an event, I believe, not next week, but the week after, regarding the student retention rate to American University. So we'll be doing some cool filming and advocacy there as well. So this is basically, point being, is it's been kicked off and it started, so I would see really no reason of just adopting it. And then also, one more thing, there's going to be a new bill that is the bill to increase affordability at American University 2.0 in regards to, I'm just going to like say everything right now because I don't care. In regards to highly suggesting to the student trustee to show up and give a report to student senate about what necessarily is going on during the board of trustees meeting, and also what's happening in administration in regards to student financial aid. So that will be, coming up soon. Let me know if you want to work on it with me, please. And then, yeah, that's about it.
I have a point of order.
Yes.
The header on the section 1 is not how it was reported from the finance committee. I think it's just a positional error.
This is what was reported. The one that I sent out was.
Is wrong?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. That was my bad. I forgot because it was very last minute, so I was like transferring everything over.
Wait, Trevor,
This
sorry.
is how it was reported. What? Yes.
Like one more thing, just really quick.
Okay.
The Center for American Progress actually is interested in interviewing students from American University to put in a research journal that they're basically establishing. And I gave them this really cool idea. I'm really excited that they're about to do this in regards to DC school affordability. So if you're interested in being a part of this journal, there's just going to be like a series of different newspaper articles written out. Just like message me or talk to me afterwards, and we can get your names online and a part of the whole movement.
Questions for the sponsor? Yes.
I'm supposed to be my co-sponsor.
On the co-sponsor?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm not, but I'm supposed to be. So.
Is that correct, Senator?
Yeah, that's just, yeah.
Okay, I will add that right here. Questions, Senator Polinsky.
A question for Senator Hawk, actually, since he's a co-sponsor, I think it's fine. I'm just wondering what the deliberation was and how we got to this. I like this bill better, actually, because I think it gives a lot more flexibility in terms of fixed tuition can be very controversial, and this makes it so we have a lot of leeway. So I was wondering what you guys talked about in the finance committee to get to this final stage.
Sure. So what we determined, and what I did was first I met with Valentina, the student trustee, to get some answers on some questions that we drafted the first time we met about this legislation. I can send my notes to anyone who's interested. Just let me know. I'll email them to you. I sent them to the finance committee before we met today. But basically, what the student trustee told us is that, getting a fixed tuition is not necessarily the most viable nor the best option for college affordability at American University, and that we should be looking into different forms of advocacy, things that are going to be more beneficial and more doable. So when we met today, we proposed this amendment, which Trevor sent out to everyone, to basically make it so that the finance committee has to publish a report on the different types of policies that can increase college affordability. And I think that makes more sense because we should not prematurely jump to the conclusion that, the specific advocacy that was in the first version of this bill is the best path to pursue. We should keep our minds open and know that there might be another better policy option that we should consider. And that's the purpose of the report. And so that's why we made that amendment.
Other questions? Seeing none, we'll move to a period of discussion and debate. Any points of discussion? Senator Zitzman.
Yeah, so I want to extend a little bit on what Senator Hawk was just saying. The main reason that we had this bill in committee for 2 weeks instead of one, we tabled it the first time, is because we spent that first committee meeting really looking online at research and experience of other schools doing fixed tuition. And what we found there, with some nuance, but the headline is that fixed tuition causes student costs to increase. So you pay more, but you have an easier time planning because you know what it's going to be ostensibly. So that first finding that we had was indicated that it wouldn't necessarily be an affordability issue, but rather a planning issue. And then there were other things that came up while we were searching around in that committee meeting, and then in the week that followed, just on our own time and surrounded with the student trustee. So yeah, I just would caution the Senate to not take fixed tuition as a synonym for affordability. They're not the same thing, and the research indicates that they may be oppositely correlated. And also, I encourage senators to really be active, like Senator Hakami has been, in their individual advocacy and just doing the work of student government, but also know that as far as the official position of student government is concerned, we have not taken a position on the issue yet. The Finance Committee, as per this bill, if it passes, will issue recommendations to the Senate, which can then adopt the official position of student government. But at the present time, student government does not have an official position on a fixed tuition or any other college affordability policy.
Senator Hakami?
Amazing. So I actually also talked to Valentina a few weeks back, and she was pretty much down with a lot of the amendments I made to the original bill. And then I took this bill to George Washington University, and I sat down with 2 economics professors, the Roosevelt Institute of George Washington, and a few student activists for tuition freeze at George Washington. And they thought it was a pretty interesting setup. And so then I took this bill to the Roosevelt Institute of AU, and I had them review it, and they thought it was a pretty interesting setup. And so I would just like to say really quickly before we just move on with our lives, there's, again, multiple different kinds of fixed tuition. I gave my phone number to Senator Hawk because I have a job, because I need money, and so I wasn't able to attend the Finance Committee meeting because, again, I have a job and I have to be there. But if anyone is curious or confused or just wondering, what necessarily this type of a plan lays out, like, please talk to me. Please, like, if you want my phone number, I'll give it to anyone as long as you're not weird. Like, just talk to me. I've done so much research on this. Like, with the very limited time I have, I'm taking less credits to dedicate to this club. Down to 12 credits now because I just wanted to dedicate all my time that I have free to AU. So this is not some sort of like rash, random proposal. This is something I've put a lot of my time and my energy into. And student government doesn't have to endorse it, but I do. And so if anyone's interested, work with me.
Senator O'Connor.
I have a question. So you sent us an email about an hour ago with the updated version of the bill.
Yeah.
And so, but is that different from what's up there right now?
No.
Well, the header is.
It shouldn't be.
Okay, because I was looking at the section 1 on the one you sent us, having a fixed tuition rate helps students graduate early.
Yeah. The header for section 1 was wrong.
Yes.
Okay,
I see.
That's what Bobby was pointing out before.
I understand.
Yeah, that was my fault. I just didn't transfer the new title over. The new section header. That's the only thing that's different from the one that I sent you. Senator Robbins.
Could you, Mr. Speaker, could you just please send me that? Because I haven't received the version you sent out, Alex. And my USG email is up. My USG email is up. I'll let everybody know that. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
No problem. All of it is working.
Other points of discussion or debate on the bill? Seeing none. Hold on. All right, seeing none, we'll move to vote. There you go, Jay. All those in favor of adopting Bill 1718-010, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. All right, it is adopted. Moving to our next business item, Bill 1718-011, a bill to limit early morning construction noise. Would the sponsor like to speak on the bill?
Sure, I'll speak briefly. So it went to committee and I talked to I think it was Mulan and Rowan. I'm sorry, I don't have the right people. It's been a long week. And we just added a clause that essentially makes it so that if I can't get this 9 a.m. ban on construction for whatever reason, we're going to try to implement some sort of noise barrier just to limit the noise. And so, yeah, and essentially in terms of advocating for this, after this gets passed, I'm going to send an email to Cheyenne to try to get in touch with the best point of contact. And so hopefully it gets passed so I could work to start limiting the noise. And then one other thing is, it's not just for the south side construction. There's a lot of construction that's going to be going on campus. It's just the fact that just reality. Asbury's probably going to get like torn down or whatever, and stuff's being done in the amphitheater right now. So this is going to affect a lot of things, and so I think it's something that we can establish as a mandate for the future, hopefully.
Questions for the sponsor, Senator Zitzman.
What is a noise barrier?
So I can I leave you to Rowan?
Yeah, so pretty much what we're thinking with the noise barrier, it's a type, the one which we're thinking of is the one which was used in Caldecott tunnels back in Bay Area where I'm from. And so the Caldecott tunnels, just a little bit of background, is a tunnel between East Bay and San Francisco Bay Area connecting Berkeley to Walnut Creek. And like, I know that like back in 2014, 15, they were building a new tunnel through it. And there are houses like literally right next to the tunnels. And they use these type of noise barriers, which are pretty much a wall that divides the two areas, but it's not like what you traditionally would say like is brick and mortar. It's more of a new efficient design where it's more like these really small foam pellets, which is lightweight, can easily be moved around and can be reused whenever that's needed. And our idea was to really limit the noise, really trying to bounce back the noise back out towards like the parking lot and stuff. And like really, they're really going to be implemented towards the side closest to the dorms.
Senator Robbins.
Thank you. Has there been, last week I asked you if you had spoken yet to the correct officials who could talk to you about like what the contract is and how, like what the setup is with the construction workers. Have you done that yet, or have you made plans to do that?
I don't want to go into philosophy here, but I guess that's the best way of answering this. So I believe that there's two ways of going about advocating for a bill in Senate. There's you can go about it, and neither way is wrong. Like both of them could be effective. So a lot of people here have been going about things single-handedly, which I think is like great. Like go advocate for yourself, go advocate for things that matter to you. But I want the whole Senate's backing. So once I get the whole Senate's backing, or however many people end up voting for this, I'm gonna go set up a meeting with Cheyenne and find the best point of contact and go to them and say, listen, this is what the Senate's come up with. What do you think you can do in order to enforce it? Or let me at least set up future meetings with you so that future construction projects are mandated not to start until 9 a.m.
Other questions?
Just a follow-up question. I understand that, Senator Polinsky, but the problem that I have is, could you understand my issue with if you haven't figured out what the agreement is? It could be a multi-year contract, or it could be a setup. So, in not figuring that out, it makes it hard to understand, like, can something actually be done? And it makes it hard for us to endorse a possible change if there's already a contract in place. Would you understand?
I don't think it makes it hard for you to endorse this because not to interrupt you.
Well, I have to ask the question first. So let me ask the question first. Would you understand my concerns with that?
So I don't think that it would be controversial for you to endorse this. I think that this is pretty simple. I think that the construction, just from witnessing it through personal experience, talking to other people who have experienced construction on campus, it varies every day when they start. So I'm not sure the specifics of the contract, and I didn't feel, not that I didn't feel comfortable, but I didn't think it would be as effective to go and ask for the specifics of the contract and to go and talk with them and advocate for it before a bill is passed. I don't think there's a point of having bills if you're not going to use the bill in order to advocate for your legislation. And so I want the bill first, and then I'm going to go advocate. And then the second point of that is, if we can't get the 9 a.m. ban, that is why I added that amendment, which Mulan and Rowan recommended, to add that noise restriction, because if that is in their contract, there's definitely nothing in their contract saying they can't have noise barriers on the outside. So all of your concerns have been taken into consideration, and there's no reason you can't endorse this, in my opinion.
Other questions?
Just a follow-up question, Mr.
Okay,
Speaker.
another question.
Who is going to be paying for the noise barrier?
So they're actually quite cheap. Rowan had brought me some sort of research yesterday on the different types of them, and we came to the determination that they are pretty cheap. So I can work with them in order to just in order to show them that it is not that expensive, and then that in the long run it is worth it. And the amount that they're spending on construction already pales in comparison into how much it's going to cost. Rome wants to elaborate more.
All right, questioning on the lapse. We'll move to.
I move to extend questioning by 3 minutes.
You can, but there also will be debate after this. So it's up to you which one.
Oh, withdraw.
Okay. We're going to move to a period of debate on the bill. Senator Myers proxy.
I completely, remember you asking your last name again?
Robbins.
Robbins, thank you, I appreciate it. I completely see where Senator Robbins is coming. I think it's a solid point to make sure that the people authoring legislation have done some level of research in terms of feasibility. What I would say though is I think that appropriate level probably has been done by Senator Polinsky. And I agree that I think using legislation as like a tool to like then take to administrators as something that like now this is what this undergraduate senate by extent the student body want, like what can we do from here as a negotiating point is a strong strategy. So I think there's something to be said for even if we don't have a 100% guarantee moving forward with this bill, because if we did have a 100% guarantee, we probably wouldn't need a bill at all. You know what I mean? So I think it's a good idea, and I think it's appropriate to move forward as a goal and as an achievement, even if we don't 100% know what's going to happen.
Secretary Schneider.
I said this last week. I think that a bill like this would be, like, I support this bill. Obviously, I don't live on campus. I don't live on South Side. So I think that, somebody who does obviously should take precedence on this issue. But I think that in terms of effectiveness and strategy, reiterating what I said last week, this kind of stuff would be more effective if you do fact-finding with university administrators before you write the bill, and you take into consideration what you've already gotten from them as you start writing, because that makes your advocacy more informed, and you go in with, and you are able to present to Senate of like a reasonable path forward, because instead you're going to be now finding out who to meet with. That's going to be another week. In this time, since it was originally proposed, and when this became an issue weeks ago, if we had, started getting facts about this, there just could have been more informed bill writing. That being said, I think it's a good idea. I know Cheyenne's out of the country for a while. So yeah, for like the rest of the month.
Just till Thursday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She's on vacation a lot longer though, right?
Well, no.
Yes, she said
She's gone the rest of the
She won't be here until March, but she's back in the country after this week.
But she's not responding to our emails until
Thursday.
Okay. Anyway, facilities management is the place to go, and I can help you.
So try and rein conversation back into this bill, more specifically on the bill. Senator Mejia.
So the new section 3 that talks about the sound barriers and stuff like that, it was mentioned that the point of that would be to bounce noise back. We do live in a residential area, so I was wondering how this would affect the university and surrounding area. I know they already don't like us that much because on the weekends we stumble around drunk and loud and obnoxious. I feel like they probably wouldn't appreciate having our construction noise bounced into their houses, especially as late as 10 p.m.
Senator Polinsky.
So I want to address two things. I'll address yours first. So the actual mechanism, and first off, that is a backup option. The goal would be first off to get some sort of ban until 9 a.m. on construction. But the actual mechanism, its priority is to absorb the noise. Second off, it's going to be projecting it probably towards a parking lot or by the Asbury building for this specific project, or just back into the construction zone itself. And while we're not sure the exact specifics of it, we kept it vague. We do have it as a backup plan. And then the second thing is I appreciate Secretary Schneider's comments and suggestions. One thing I do want to say is, though, as a freshman senator, it can be extremely difficult. And I know people do get meetings all the time, but balancing everything, it can be extremely difficult to do the work before you have the backing, and also it can be extremely intimidating. And not that it's not something I haven't wanted to do. I just think it's a lot more effective to go about it the other way. And it's a philosophy thing. Like, it's completely up to you which way you want to go about it. And it's not like my work ethic is poor because I haven't gone about it. Once I get this passed, I will be going headstrong into working with facilities management, with whoever it is, with Cheyenne, in order to get this passed. And then I do know that I had talked to Trevor about this because I didn't want it to be a month before I was able to contact Cheyenne. And he did say that she is coming back on Thursday. While she won't be at Senate for a while, she will be reachable. So I think it is something that I can immediately begin advocating if it is passed. So don't let any of this affect how you vote. Like, I will be working for it once it's passed.
I have a question.
Sorry,
I think that there's two questions my answer. If they say, no, we cannot do the 9 a.m. ban, what will you do?
I will work to get noise barriers.
Okay, if they then say, we have an issue with noise barriers, would you consider rewriting this entire thing and consider a third choice?
Absolutely.
There we go. I don't see what's the problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Other points of debate or discussion? Senator Zitzman.
I request unanimous consent that the bill be passed.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. And there is a second, so to close debate first, right? Yeah, okay. All those in favor of closing debate to move to vote, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, is there any objection to adopting this bill? All right, it's adopted. Moving to our next business item, Bill 17-18-012, a bill to create a permanent joint committee with the Faculty Senate.
Speaker, can I do an inquiry?
Yeah.
Is there any way that we can move my bill up? Because I have other things to do.
We could amend the agenda to put it up if.
Senator.
And I would make that amendment if that's okay with everyone.
Okay, so there's a motion to move to consider Bill 013 before 012. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, this requires a 2/3, or 2/3 majority to change the agenda. All those in favor of moving the two legislations, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay. So we're going to consider 013 first, or before 012. Would the sponsor like to speak on the bill?
Yeah, just please consider it. We discussed it at length at CRP, pretty common sense.
If anybody have any questions, I'm here, and that's why I wanted to move it up. I have unfortunately no place to be.
Questions for the sponsor? Senator O'Connor?
So has this already been a position that's been assumed for a while?
No, it has been, there's different forms of it.
Like de facto.
Yeah, it's been like varied. I just need it to be a permanent position because I think one, is very beneficial. Two, I think that with the new inclusive excellence plan, like I said last week, this is going to be a very important role in order to advocate for students in the President Council on Diversity and Inclusion. And there's also focus groups that are going to be created in order to talk about metrics and how are we going to advance and assess the inclusive excellence plan. And I think that this position is going to become sort of like the student trustee, just a bit more opened, because the student trustee does have to keep stuff a bit silent. But, I just think that when we're talking about focus groups and stuff, I think the student government should somehow be connected. And there's also going to be another representative from the undergraduate body. So it's not only SG talking, it's going to be somebody else. And that's a long answer to your question, but what I'm trying to say is it's invaluable and it has been created in different forms, but nonetheless it has been existing. I just want to make sure that we don't backslide from the progress that we have made.
Other questions? Seeing none, we'll move to a period of debate. Any points of debate or discussion on the bill? Senator Naira's proxy?
I think that this is important for two reasons. The first is that I think when you alter the governing documents of any institution, it's an expression of intent. And so I agreed with Senator Pintar and Director Payano's work on the legislation to make a standing committee in the Senate on diversity and inclusion, because it makes sure that regardless of the speaker in the future's intentions, we'll always have that committee, and it will like exist in perpetuity. It's the same thing we're doing with this position on the executive level, and I think that's very important. The second thing I would say is that I really agree with Yami when she's talking about the importance of the position. There is something to be said for the way administrators treat you when your position is within the bylaws of the constitution of our student government. I think it unlocks a lot of access to meetings with administrators and seats on committees that doesn't always get shared to positions that might not exist in a year. So we obviously want to make diversity and inclusion a priority, and we want to mean it more than just talking about it. I think this is a really nice way to act on it.
Other points of debate, Senator Hakami.
Can we close debate and just vote unanimously?
Second.
Okay, there's a second. All those in favor of closing debate, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, is there any objection to adopting Bill 17-18-003? Okay, it's adopted. Moving on to our next agenda item, Bill 17-18-012, a bill to create a permanent joint committee with the Faculty Senate. Would the sponsor like to speak on the bill?
Just very briefly, it's practically the same as when you last saw it. That's it.
Any questions for the sponsor?
I'm just curious, sorry to extend this, but did you speak to anyone on the Faculty Senate about it? And if so, I'm curious to hear what they think.
I have not. But Trevor, you mentioned that you have spoken with the Faculty Senate in general. Did this kind of concept come up?
I haven't received a response, but I've reached out to them, so I'm just waiting for a response.
Thank you.
Senator O'Connor?
Yeah, so I'm co-sponsoring this. The director of the academic program that I help run is a member of the Faculty Senate as well. I meet with him once a week usually.
Cool.
So I'll be also as well. Yeah.
Further questions? Seeing none, we'll move to a period of discussion. Any points of discussion or debate on the bill? Senator Najafi?
I think it's a great bill. My first resolution I introduced to the Senate was about the Inside Out Prison Exchange Program and like incorporating that into our curriculum. And I met with a faculty senator, and he was like really open to adding on to it and was very interested in what we're doing. And so I think this is also a great way to like reel them into what we're doing and seeing what work they're doing as well. Just like making that connection. So I'll be supporting it.
Senator Robbins?
In speaking with one of my literature professors and mentioning this idea that was brought up, she thought it was a great idea, but something that she mentioned was that this really needs to, like, hopefully this will pass, I don't see any problem with it passing, but in making sure that we actually adopt this, it has to really be implemented, and we actually really have to be working towards seeing this through, because the faculty is really eager to work with us. They do want to hear what we have to say, but there has to be that kind of extra push and extra advocacy. So I implore all of the senators who will vote for this today to remember that and just be active within the Faculty Senate and be talking to faculty members about this.
Senator Zitzman?
Yeah, that's correct. And I think that there are measures in the bill to ensure that kind of, I'll call it long-term like accountability, in that it specifies in the bill that whatever like ends up being the final form, student government is requiring it to be in order for our participation to be permanent and not subject like to annual renewal. And also that it specifies the people from the Undergraduate Senate who are going to be in that committee, and those positions that are listed are always going to be there. They're not positions that are going to go away for whatever reason. So since there will always be, as long as this bill is adhered to, somebody to fill that position, I think that goes towards those concerns.
Senator Mejia?
I'm just curious, do we have a rough timeline of when this committee would actually like exist and have people nominated and all that good stuff, or just wondering?
Yeah, I'll give
you
you
take the
that.
question.
Yeah, so this bill doesn't specify. I thought about putting in a timeline, but I didn't, and I'm confident it sounds like Trevor has already begun the preliminary process of reaching out to the Faculty Senate to do something like this, and I am confident that he would, as speaker, actually take on the responsibilities directed to him by this bill if it is adopted.
Senator Nair Sparksy?
Yeah, I think that Trevor and Bobby are the two people that I'm most confident in their ability to follow through on things. So I'm not too worried about the implementation component. And if it's okay with everyone, I was going to motion to vote by unanimous consent.
There's a second. Okay, all those in favor of closing debate, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. Is there any objection to adopting the bill? All right, it's adopted. Okay, moving on to our last agenda item. Nope, I lied. Bill 17-18-014, a bill to establish accessible and affordable emergency contraception on campus. Would the sponsor like to speak on the bill?
Oh, yeah, hi. Can we pull it up as well?
Yep, in there.
Can you send me a copy, the edited copy, please, Mr. Speaker?
I sent it to all of AUSG. Did you not get it?
Yeah, it we approved whatever. Yeah, so.
Jacob, you're not going to be on the big listserv for AUSG yet. I don't know how that works, but.
Just added him.
Do you think I should be added, Bobby?
Oh, I just sent it to you.
All right.
Yeah, I sent it to you.
Thanks, Jane.
Senator?
Yeah, thanks guys. So, project that I've been working a while on, I'm really excited that it went through committee. I've been working with AU Plan B and also making sure I'm sending statements with the health center and just kind of like looking towards like what that voucher that is proposed would look like and how we would, and also speaking with the finance committee, seeing how that like voucher would be compensated for. So there's definitely just before we get into debate also, I'm very open to like the different options. This is more just like the ambiguity, I guess, is just to make sure that we can explore all options, especially with the red tape that sometimes gets caught up with bills like this. So I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to further work on this project as well. And it's kind of like been my baby this year. So I'm looking forward to what everyone has to say about it. And I hope you guys like it too.
Questions for the sponsor? Senator Mejia?
Have y'all spoken to RHA about like getting it somehow in the residence halls?
Yeah, thank you. I've been meaning to speak with RHA and Nancy actually.
Oh, I can speak on that if that's okay. So yeah, I'm a member of the RHA General Assembly, and obviously like this is something that's really important to us as far as taking care of residents and things like that. But the problem with things like these that are seen as like health products is that we can't distribute them in residence halls. There has to be a very specific way for us to do these things. So even things like tampons, condoms, like any menstrual products, we can't give those out. Like we can't give those to RAs, or like we can't just give them to students because there's a lot of liability in that. So especially when it comes to Plan B, like because that was what we talked about in committee, is that residence halls would be a great place for it to utilize this. But unfortunately, with red tape and bureaucracy and things like that, it's not possible for us to do that in a way that limits liability.
Thanks, Nancy. Like Nancy, I really appreciate her clarifying that for me as well. So that was the plan, and when I just kind of was talking with Nancy about it, it just kind of like negated that purpose of speaking with RJ if it can't be implemented in residence halls.
Other questions? Seeing none, we'll move to a period of discussion. Any Senator Polinsky?
I just wanted to commend Senator Pintar. Like I had asked like one question, just like about the voucher program during committee, and like she had like such a detailed response. I knew that this was something she was passionate about, and like she clearly has done her research and like is going to be advocating for it. So I look forward to seeing it implemented and like being a new thing on campus that people have to look forward to if they happen to be in that circumstance.
Other points of discussion or debate? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor of adopting Bill 17-18-014, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. All right, it is adopted. All right, moving to the last agenda item, Resolution 17-18-011, a resolution to increase faculty members of color, world studies, and language courses. would the sponsor like to speak on the resolution?
Yeah, so we just amended it in the DEI committee, so it should be up to date. And for everyone who's on the Excel sheet I made in regards to whatever, like department that you're assigned to and the faculties and everything, please like fill it out. You know, it's one thing to start writing this stuff, but it's another to actually follow through. And I think it's great that we have such a lengthy legislation tab on the AUSG website, but definitely like we need to start committing to a lot of these causes. So I would highly recommend that people start emailing and start being like annoying with a lot of these department heads, because nobody's gonna listen to this other than us.
I have a point of order again.
Yeah.
I think there's been another error with transferring the amendment.
Okay.
Because, as I understand it, the second resolve clause was amended in the committee, and I'm trying to send you that text now, but having some issues. There we go. But yeah, so you can continue, and then I will email it to you.
Other
Wait,
points
Trevor, sorry, one thing. In the be it further, sorry, I can't really read. Be it further resolved that the last sentence, it says Farsi, Turkish, Greek, Urdu, and Polish. I think you have the old document.
Yeah, that's what I was talking
Yeah.
about. I just sent you the text of what that second resolved clause should be.
Sorry, we made updates on the languages.
Okay.
Everything else
Yeah,
is
I just took whatever was.
Yeah, that's my fault. Thank you guys for finding that.
Okay. Is this the only thing that was changed?
Yeah, that was about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just clicked the old memo, but thank you.
Okay, so Bobby, the one that you sent me
Is the second resolved clause? It's the one
just
that
changes
deals
this whole thing?
Yes.
Okay. Let me put that on the screen for you all. Okay. So, based on what was sent to me, any other points of discussion on the resolution? I mean, the bill, yeah, the resolution. Okay, so this is the wording. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Can we zoom in, because I'm having a hard time seeing your words.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Okay. Points of discussion or debate. That was the simple clerical issue. Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor of adopting resolution 17-18-011, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed say nay. Okay. Any other old business? All right, moving to a period of public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak at this time? Okay, yeah.
So I just wanted to emphasize the importance of the construction delay. Last week at 5:34, I have a picture of it. Someone was opening the gates to the construction center, so 5:34. I'm very, what's the word?
Light sleeper.
Light sleeper, yeah. So I hear everything, even with the window closed, and I heard them open the gates. They start construction at like 6:37. Even if it's 8 o'clock that they start, that's okay because that's when most classes begin. I think 6:37 is a little too much. So if you guys can work on that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Other members of the public wishing to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll move to the good of the order. Any executive good of the order? President Michelle.
As someone who does enjoy snack time, I commend the snacks being brought today, but also please be aware that when your fellow senators are talking, it's really audibly disruptive and disrespectful to be like mindlessly eating, chatting, and like crinkling your bags like you're in the cafeteria. Especially given that like it's the same handful of senators who come week after week to Senate with legislation. And so I just think that if you're going to want to have snacks, do so respectfully, and you could even maybe have recess to enjoy them. I just didn't like that when you were considering resolutions and bills of like things that people have worked really hard on and like done their homework, done their effort, put hard work into putting these bills and advocating for their constituents. It's just kind of really rude to kind of disrupt that just because you want to eat and you aren't willing to wait a second for someone to stop talking. That's all I'm going to say. Don't want to parent you, but.
Other executive go to the order. All right, moving to Senator go to the order. Senator Adams.
So after like you sent us the email, Trevor, so Angela, Milan, and Joshua and I were interested in making an Eagle-thon team, and we wanted to see if anyone else was interested in joining us. So yeah, please like hit us up. Very good cause. Yeah.
All right, Senator Dantzler.
And I would just tag along with what Danya was saying. One of the Eagle-thon chairs approached me. She said, we really would like for senators to come because to see us in a different light and to really be exposed to outside of AU, SG. So I would highly suggest coming to Eagle-thon, coming to multicultural programs. I know Trevor and I went to the BSU's inward discussion dialogue. I definitely suggest coming to programs, being visible, so that people don't just see us as these senators.
Senator Robbins.
I just wanted to introduce myself to the senators that were not here last week. I'm Jacob Robbins. I'm a freshman currently studying literature with a concentration in film and media. I'm the new senator for the Senator of College of Arts and Sciences. If you want to just, I'd love to work with everybody. If you want to just talk about movies, I also want to talk about movies. I'm looking forward to working with everybody.
All right, Senator Legisi.
Yeah, to bring back up Josh's point about programming and seeing senators in a different light, I'm just going to plug RHA for a second. I'm a member of the La Clover Hall Council, which is Let's Park the Roper. So if you're in any of those halls, I just want to plug that we're doing some awesome Valentine's Day programming in the next couple of weeks. So if you have friends in Let's or Roper, you can find a Google form and send them candygrams and Valentines, which is really fun. And then even if you're not in Let's or Roper, we're having a Valentine's Day dance on Friday. So it's 7 to 9, I think. Yeah, 7 to 9. All the information on Facebook, but it's going to be super cute. There's going to be food and like cheesy decorations and punch and music. So I highly recommend coming. Also, there's going to be cookies in Let's Lobby tomorrow, 6 to 8. So come through.
Senator Chen.
Yeah, really quickly on Eagle-thon, Jonathan Dickerman, our Senate historian, is also on our team.
Hey.
So please reach out if you want to join. It's going to be a really good time. It's for a really, really amazing cause. Also, just this past week, AU Dems hosted our second general body meeting in collaboration with the Roosevelt Institute, and I talked to the two guys that were up there presenting afterwards about like legislation and like Senate legislation. I asked them very candidly, I was like in terms of policy, like how good is our legislation? And the sound they made was kind of like, oh, and basically what they said is like, if anyone is interested in reaching out to them, like Senator Hakami did, and having them look over your legislation and just look over like the wording to see how effective it is, and in terms of like how persuasive it's going to be to administration as like a piece of policy. The guys from the Roosevelt Institute are very, very open to that. I say guys, most of them are guys. But yeah, please reach out to them on their Facebook page. They really do, they really do want to work with the Undergraduate Senate to make our policy just better and more professional, and to be taken more seriously by the administration. So.
Senator Hakami.
Okay, just like clerical shit. Stuff. No, actually though, I don't want to call out names, but actually please fill out the Excel form I created for the the World Studies courses in languages. If you're covering the Middle East or South Asia, email and write this down. I don't recall from my own recollection who it is, but mes@american.edu. Pretty easy. And then also for those who are interested, this is a really, really cool opportunity. Even outside of the scope of Senate, if you're interested in working with literally just a random group of adults to research fixed tuition, I kid you not, they're willing to work with all of us. Like they're just sitting there in their office, like willing to do the research for us so we can bring it back to Senate and write some really great legislation. They're just as passionate as we are about a lot of this. They're literally like that. The one piece of evidence I had in regards to what George Mason is doing, I met with the guy who conducted that research. He's so willing to come here and just talk about it and, you know, research about what American is doing. So if you're interested, just come and talk to me. We can go and meet with them. They're really, really great people. They have all the resources available and they want to publicize this stuff and they want to get this stuff on the roll. I don't know if that's actually a phrase in English, but so yeah, just like a quick plug.
Senator Zitzman.
All right. If you are on the commission on creating a unified student government code, that's some senators, the president and the secretary and his cabinet. You guys have all got your bills that you're responsible for adding, and I get an automatic email whenever you guys type on the document, so I am watching. we have 3.5 weeks to get it done, so get on it.
Senator McGee.
I have two things I want to say. First of all, I want to thank Noah again for taking on 2 thankless jobs. It's really amazing that he was willing to take these jobs in the last couple of months here at the university. Just to go to legislation, the bill 1718-016, the one that talks about changing the e-board, credit, all that good stuff. I had spoken earlier with people about the definition of leadership that we're going to be using, and I was disappointed that there was no definition of leadership in the bill. And I think that as it currently stands, it's really vague. So I'm hoping that when it goes to committee, someone defines leadership in a way that makes it not like up to anyone's interpretation.
Senator Robbins.
Sorry, I also just forgot to mention, I know last week we spoke about making sure we were doing things together outside of SG. So y'all better mark your calendars because March 5th, outside of the Oscars after party, I'll be throwing the best Oscars party ever. I fully expect that you all will be there to predict what will win for Best Picture. I fully expect everyone will be there, but in particular, I can't wait to see Bobby walk down the red carpet.
Other senators for the good of the order. All right. Some other additional things. So I got an email from Vote Latino at AU, and it was an email about working with the Residence Hall Association to plan a breakfast for Residence Hall's cleaning staff and workers in March. So if anyone is interested in doing some joint efforts with that, let me know, and I can put you in contact with the members that are like spearheading the initiative. So I think that's a great opportunity for senators to get involved. Also, all 3 new business bills from this week are in CRP, in which we meet at 12 before the meeting. So if you have additional comments or amendments that you want to make on any of the bills, come to CRP, which is an hour before Senate. And I am working, so anyone who had legislation passed today, please contact me, meet with me. Let's talk about what the next steps are so we can follow through with your legislation. I think there's some great pieces that are passed today, and I think we could really show that, the student body, that we are doing a lot of work and a lot of good work for the students. And then also I am working with I don't know where that thought was going. Make sure that you sign in for office hours, go to committee meetings, please, because people are already getting attendance points against them. Don't want to go through suspension processes. That's it. I am working to figure out a good non-student government social event for us to do. So we'll see. So if you have ideas, throw them out to me after the second meeting. Is it free? That's the goal. Yeah. So besides that, that's all I have. So if there's no objection, then we are adjourned.
Awesome.
Health services.